Hey there, Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you're having an amazing time of festivity and celebration with your family. I want to encourage the joy and mirth and warmth of life as you all enjoy your friends and loved ones. You see, this is a reflection of God, and our view of God must be radically altered as we drop our idolatrous images of Him as this stern-faced, austere, humorless, angry, utilitarian deity in the sky. God delighted Himself in entering into our humanity to commune with us on that first Christmas. It was His intoxicating passion to draw near to us and revel in the joys of oneness and togetherness and meeting and communion. You know, one of the greatest mysteries of the ages is that our God's nature is that of revelry and play. You know, the scriptures say, unless we become like little children, we by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. God is indeed fearsome, but He's fearsome not because of His anger, but because of the intensity of His gladness. He's not this bland Victorian prude who rejects the wonders and pleasures of humanness. He is the God who embraces humanness and transcends it in color, beauty, and aesthetic wonder. Proverbs 8:30 and 31 says, "Then I, wisdom, was beside him as a craftsman, and was daily his delight, playing always before him, playing in his inhabited world, and my delight was with the sons of man." Here is God Himself, the Spirit of wisdom. Christ is the wisdom from above, literally playing in the Father's presence at the dawn of creation. It doesn't simply say wisdom rejoiced, as many translations read. The word sechak means to play. It even means to joke or to jest. It means to frolic. God was literally playing, frolicking with His children at the dawn of creation. Before you were created, God saw you, delighted in you, and played with you in the morning of the universe. Did you know that your Father wants to enjoy you? He does. He's neither aloof nor disinterested in the affairs of your life. He is the God of joy and mirth. He longs to spend time with you and show you the rivers of pleasure at His right hand. You know, the German mystic, the Dominican monk Meister Eckhart spoke of laughter at the very core of the Trinity. In a very surprising passage, he writes, "The Father laughs at the Son, and the Son at the Father, and the laughing brings forth pleasure, and the pleasure brings forth joy, and the joy brings forth love." Look, just as our views of God must be overhauled, so does our view of Scripture need a radical overhaul. As we see, He's not the dry, pious pap of a schoolmarm in the sky, we begin to realize He is pure beauty. He is the life of the party. He is the wine itself, the God of play and celebration. This was mirrored in the ancient Jewish culture of feasting. I mean, Christmas is like our one feast as believers. The Jewish people, they had feasts all year long. God sings through the joys of this life. And He's not just above and apart from this world, but eminently reflected through it, echoing an even greater bliss that awaits us on the distant shore. You know, as a kid, I viewed God as against anything that could possibly reek of fun. I mean, the legalistic religious lens through which I was taught to see told me that anything pleasurable was evil, and anything hard, difficult, or boring was from God. I was literally taught to call that which was good evil, and that which was evil good. I had this idea that God was inherently against me. I could not grasp the concept that God created me even for the natural pleasures of this world. I thought He was somehow against my humanity, that old Gnostic religious lie that says the ultimate goal is to shed your humanness and become a cold, disembodied spirit. Scripture, through that lens, seemed to rain on my parade. I mean, I couldn't think about girls. Booze was off limits. God wanted me to be a poor, broke hermit in a cave. But the goal of Scripture was not to quench my party, but to enhance it. Yes, it is full of guidelines, but I never realized those guidelines were actually to fuel the party, not to scorn it, not not to earn his approval, but because he proved of me, he sent me into a course. He says, live this way. This is the recipe for the most fulfilling, lasting, fruitful, enjoyable life. Bourbon is a gift. Just don't overdo it and become a drunkard, because that's no fun. He says, look, I've got the hottest recipe for sex on the planet. Despite what the porn-driven media tells you, that recipe is called monogamy, and a committed, lifelong relationship of trust, building, and vulnerability with one other person, a person you create a family with, who becomes a continually fulfilling delight because she's your sole standard of beauty, whom you don't compare others with. He says, son, stolen water may seem sweet, but you're not made for these broken, shallow, hollow, hit it and quit it casual relationships that fragment and destroy you, and surely not an addiction to a two-dimensional image on a screen. He says, look, I am God and you are not. I'm more fun than you. I have a better sense of humor than you do. I know what will actually fulfill you more than you do. He says, trust me when I say I'm in a much better mood than you, and trust me when I say I've designed you a certain way. I know what fuels the eternal party. There's a blueprint in which I've created all humanity to walk. And above all, that party is summed up in me. Guys, we make a massive mistake when we think the party lies outside of Christ, or it's separate from Christ, or that God is just heaping moralisms on us so we would somehow climb a ladder of pleasing him by abandoning all fun. He is a celebrant, and he came to restore his very image and likeness in us, which means we too begin to cheer up, grow a sense of humor, and start to act more loving in our relation with others, because the lie and vanity of sin has been exposed as a false fix to our desire for satisfaction. He made you for real-time, real-world satisfaction in him. And that's nothing we achieve on our own. You may think you are sovereign and have a better course planned out for your life than he does, or that you're the one exception to the way that he's designed humanity, and kick these guidelines to the curb. But he says our rebellion only lands us in this bitter, critical, broken, depressed, thumb-sucking state, having missed out on the glory he's created us for. God's precepts, even in Scripture, they're like gravity. You don't break the law of gravity. If you step off a building, you only illustrate it. We may think we can navigate a better life than the Spirit wants us into, but it will only be an empty hull, because God is the ultimate celebrationist. He has known us better than we know ourselves, and from the start to the finish, he's geared you in your very DNA to respond in awe and wonder and overwhelming magnitude to the truth of what he knows about you. He says you are perfect, you are exquisite, you are overflowing with all that he is. This isn't something we become, it's something we behold as we gaze into Christ and see the reflection of our own divine likeness. We learn not just to trust him in how to live, but we learn to rest in our being, and out of that being, then it all makes sense. We're here to enjoy the feast together, somewhere between heaven and earth, firmly planted in both places in the beauty of holiness. God speaks about our natural lives, not because he's a distant, aloof, theological principle or concept, and not because he's anal. Be diligent in wrapping your mind around this. He's thorough in how to live, but not anal. Be dogmatic in knowing this isn't dogmatism. Unless I want to be insane, be determined to know him as he is. So, as you celebrate the incarnation of God and man firmly united, let your spirituality and material revelry be seamlessly united this Christmas, as you know it truly is all summed up in him. Know he is for you, and he's got a bigger sack than old St. Nick strung over his shoulder for you. Finally, some of these thoughts on this biblical recipe for the happy life are really resounding in my new book. I've been working on it. I'm so excited. It's coming out. It's titled Money, Sex, Beer, God. It's all about seeing the natural pleasures of life through an incarnational lens. I'm tackling some of the most controversial topics, not rejecting them or idolizing them, but baptizing them in this gospel perspective in a holistic way that is sure to challenge and liberate a lot of people. Now look, Christmas is almost here. The book won't be out until next spring, but it is a great last-minute gift for a friend. So sign them up for it. You can pre-order at johncrowder.net and drop a little note in their stocking. Tell them that you're giving them money, sex, beer, and God for Christmas. I mean, they couldn't ask for anything better than that. It'll just arrive on their doorstep a little late a few months from now, okay? Also, as a great last-minute gift idea, you can send someone to one of these stops. I'm coming to Bergen, Norway for a Scandinavian mystical school. It's almost here, January 8th through 10th, 2016. Then in January, I'm with worship sensation Tim Wright for a South Africa tour to Durban, Johannesburg, and Cape Town. Then at the start of February, I'm coming to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. It's our only mystical school in that whole greater Texas, Kansas, Missouri region. And then February 19th through 21st, I'll be in downtown New York City for a mystical school. And our Northern California mystical school comes to the Chico Redding area on April Fool's Day weekend. We have discounts for ministry school students, but this one always fills up, so register early. And then we're in the Northwest in Seattle, Washington, April 8th through 10th. You can find all the mystical schools at thenewmystics.com/schools. And finally, Tim Wright and I are hitting the whole West Coast for our Gospel Mania tour coming in April. We're coming to Southern California, to Port Hueneme, also to Phoenix, Arizona. We're in Colorado in Woodland Park near Colorado Springs, and finally Portland, Oregon. And Gospel Mania will also hit the East Coast later in the year. Find the whole tour at thenewmystics.com/tour.